right, very good. All right, so we are at the end of the story of the chapter of Noah. And this is a really, really weird story, okay? It's a very strange story. You've probably heard this before. You guys heard of the story of the Tower of Babel. These guys, they wanted to build a tower up to the sky. And they wanted to fight God. Now, when you hear that, it sounds pretty crazy, right? I don't think it's that crazy. I think it's a pretty common thing. Just different forms of it today. Where people really want to fight God. They think they're gonna, it's even so. In my opinion, it's very common in terms of how we view science and medicine. To the point, it's like instead of people understanding that science and medicine are realities that God created, people think, science is gonna one day figure out how God won't get involved in our lives and mess us up. That's like a subconscious feeling people have. That was these people. These people remembered the story of the flood. They knew that the story of the flood happened, and they were trying to prevent God from getting involved in their lives. Okay, we're going to read this story. It's a crazy story. It's a really amazing story. What they were doing, how they were doing, what was their science at the time? Okay, because they did have some kind of technology. It's very different than what you know today, okay? And we're going to show what their technology was, but this is how they thought they were going to fight God, okay? So let's read it inside. You'll see the words, as Chris saw last time, and one little word in the Torah changes the whole universe. The whole life, you can look for an answer, and it's right here, but you have to read it in the Hebrew, you have to see the words. So let's start to see what these words are, and we'll figure out a lot of things. Okay, so I'm going to start on page 49, chapter 11. I'll read it in the English, and then I'll go back to the Hebrew. I'll read in the Hebrew, I'll translate the English, whatever it is. I'll start with Hebrew. The whole world was, I'll read it in the Hebrew, and I'll translate. You follow in English, and when something that I translate does not translate in the English, you scream. Okay, that everyone in Facebook land could hear you. Okay, because that means that they're biasing the translation. Okay, not because translations are always translations are. You can't read the Torah, the Bible, if you don't read it in Hebrew. I mean, you could get some understanding of it, but every word is a whole universe. So in the words, when you translate, even a good translation is going to limit it because it's going to take one sense of the word. Okay, so I'm going to translate that as I translate the words. If the English translates it different, which is a good translation here, tell me, because then they don't want to take the direction that I'm explaining, which is a different direction, and they both are included in the words, but they took one way and I took another way. Okay, the whole land was one language, udvarim achadim, and things of oneness. When they went, they moved from the east. Okay, they were living in the east. They moved from the east, and they found a valley, Be'eretz Shinar, in the land of what's today called Babylon, which today is called Iraq. They sat there. Okay, and Vayomer, they said, a man to his friend said, "Come, let us build bricks." And we'll burn them up in the cauldron, in the fire, and make them strong. And the bricks will be our stones. And the cement will be we use to stick them together. By Yomru, and they said. Now, all of a sudden, you have really weird lines. By Yomru, they said, let's build a city, umigdal, a tower. And the head of the tower should be at the heavens. Okay. Now, here's why. I'm going to translate this. Tell me what it says in the English. V'naseh lanu shem. We'll make for ourselves a name. Is that what it says? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. It makes us a name. What kind of name? What do they want to be famous? What is it? What do you mean? What do you mean they want to make a name? What does that mean? Now, what happens if we don't make a name? Pen nafutza pnei, maybe will be spread out throughout the whole world. Okay? So they're paranoid. They think they got to make a name for themselves, otherwise they're going to be spread out to the whole world, which is what happens in the end. Okay. Then it says, I'll just translate it, and I'm translating my own translation. Tell me if it's different in the English here. Oh, this one's going to be different, what I'm saying. And God came down to see, well, it does not come down to see, but whatever that means here, there's different commentaries to talk about that. And to see the tower, the city, and the tower that was built by the children of Adam, mankind. And God said, behold, they are one nation, and they have one language for all of them. And this they started to do. And now, and now it will not be withheld from them all they try to accomplish. Did English say what I said or no? Yeah? Yeah. It will not be withheld. They will not be held. Is it said really?
Should not be withheld from them whenever it goes again. Same way. It's the same way.
No. It's a big difference. What's the difference? They put a question mark. Right. I didn't say that. That's a big difference. In other words, they said, the English said, and God will say, well, am I not going to stop them from what they're going to do? I didn't read it with a question mark. The way I said it was, and God said, and this is what the verse actually says, literally, it says, it will not, now this is what they started to do, and it will not be withheld what they're trying to accomplish, which implies that a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. You know what it implies? What they were trying to accomplish would be successful. God is going to go in and change it because what they're trying to do, which we'll see in a second, theoretically was going to be successful. So what did God do? It says now, God said, let us go down, talking to the spiritual forces in the world that he created. Let us go down, and we'll confuse their language. That one person will not understand in the language of his friend. So now, all of a sudden, they don't speak the language anymore. Vayafet Hashem Motam, Hashem chased them out. He spread them out. Misham, throughout, he sent them out from there, throughout the whole world. And they stopped building the city. And therefore, they call the place Babylon, Bavel. Why? Because there, God, I don't know if this works in English. Is it Babel is confusion in English, right? It does kind of work. Babbling, sorry, yeah. He called it Babylon, Bavel in Hebrew, because Sham Balal. Balal means to confuse. The word Bavel is from the Hebrew word Bilbul. Bilbul means confuse. He confused their languages. Okay? He confused their languages, so he called the place Babylon. Babel. Confusion. Because there God confused the language of the land, and from there God spread them out throughout the whole earth. All right, what's going on here? I don't understand. Just because you don't speak the language anymore, you're going to get to exile? What are they doing? What does that mean? You don't speak the language, uh-oh, we're out of here. Well, how does that work? And what are they trying to do? Just close the door, Andrew. I think she's doing that, right? Yeah, just close it because I hear them. So what are they trying to do? And what does it mean God says that they're going to be successful? What are they trying to do? And why is the solution is to mix up the languages? Okay? Very important question. Okay? What's going on here? Let's review. It says that they had a plan. We don't know what the plan is. They want to build a tower. We don't know yet from the text. They want to fight God. The text just said they want to build a city and a tower. Okay? That's what we know. The text then it says that what happened was that they wanted to make themselves a name. What's so bad? They want to be a little famous, you know what? But no, something problem with this. They want to make a name. And so what happened was God said, I gave them one land and one language. And this they start to do? They're going to be successful unless I'm going to do this process. of mixing up the languages. Somehow mixing up the languages stops the process, and it does. Once the language is mixed up, then they stop building the city, and they fall apart, and they go to different places. Why? Why are these things happening? Right? Any other questions?
Well, it kind of connects being one purpose with one language.
One purpose in one language. Very good. We have to see what languages mean and why, you feel comfortable with people who have a similar language to you. Right? So there's a real issue about languages. And somehow when they spoke one language, they had one purpose, and the breaking of the language is going to change the whole deal. Okay? So let's just review. We got to find out, they want to make a name. What does it mean they want to make a name for themselves? Why are they trying to build this city in the tower? Why does God not like it? Why does he mix up their languages specifically? Why does it stop them from building the tower? Okay? Those are the questions we got to discuss. Okay, you got it? Okay. First of all, everyone know what language they were speaking. That's right. They were speaking Lashon HaKodesh. Lashon HaKodesh is what you call today Hebrew. Why am I not saying it's Hebrew? Because you have modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew is close to Lashon. Lashon HaKodesh means the holy tongue. Hebrew is the holy tongue. But there's modern Hebrew today, which is similar, but it's not the same as the original biblical holy language. Because Lashon HaKodesh is everything, every word is exactly what it means to be. We've done this many times. Every letter, we can do a series on this. We can spend months on a letter. Every letter, how it's formed, what it's written. Every single word means something. Every letter means something. Combinations of letter mean something. That's the holy language. There are special things. For example, there are concepts that are negative or bad. There's no word for them. Like, there's a lot of words for joy. I always tell this. There's a lot of words for joy. There's probably more words in Hebrew for happiness than any other language. There's tons of words. There's sasan, simcha, gila, rina, ditza, chedva, achva. There's tons of words. But there's not the word for fun. There'll be no fun here. Why not? Why is no word for fun? You know what the Hebrew word for fun is? Kef. Kef. It's really an Arab word. It's an Arabic word. They borrowed from the Arabic. Why? Because the implication of the word kef, the implication is, I am doing something that is fun, but it's not going to be lasting. It's gone in a second. I went on that roller coaster ride. I felt alive for 2 seconds of my life because I almost died. And now it's off, and I'm back to the same miserable person I was a minute ago. So it's not. So the implication of, and I'm all for fun. I love fun. Don't get me wrong. I love fun. I'm a fun-loving guy. But I like real fun. I like fun that's going to be somehow meaningful. We had a good time, we connected, we were doing something. The implication of the way we use fun is that it could be totally senseless. It could be this high that's gone aside. So there's no Hebrew word for fun. They had to import a word from Arabic. So what these people spoke was Lashon HaKodesh. They spoke the holy tongue, which was the language that the world was created with. Right? And I showed you that many times, how every, I talk about it, I just repeated it again. I don't know if I said it on Facebook, but I said before many times, I'm sorry, 1 second. Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay, so the Hebrew word for dog, we talked about many times, is kelev. And kelev is a conjugation of the word kol lev, all heart, right? Because that's the dog's quality. The word chatul, what does the word chatul mean? You guys heard me say it before. What does the word chatul means? Cat. What is the root of the word chatul? Everyone know? Yeah, in modern Hebrew, a diaper is called a chitul. In Israel, if you go, the cats all wear diapers. It's very fascinating. No, they don't wear diapers. Okay, but what that means is the word in Hebrew lechatel means to clean something up. And that's the nature of the cat, right? The cat clean themselves and they look at you like, what are you doing here? This is my house. That's a cat. Dogs aren't like that. Dogs are all over you, they're all hard. Cats are proud. They're very, very proud. They clean themselves. So Hebrew identify the root. This is so now what happens is language, and also they're all, as Andrew just said, they're all united. Peace and people unite, very, very powerful thing. I'll tell you why it's so powerful. It's so powerful because it imitates the root of spirituality. Now, it's about oneness, experiencing God. People that are fragmented are not living godly lives, right? If your head's here, your mind's are all over the place, then you have no settled nature. You're not living in a godly way. So the idea of people being united, having peace amongst themselves, peace in yourself, is actually a very spiritual experience. These people spoke one language and they were united. So that gave them a very powerful spiritual edge. Now, what do they want to do with this? So here's what it says in the Midrash says they want to do. They wanted to build a tower. Okay, we know that. What they want to put in this tower? So their plan was, in the top of the tower, they want to put an idol, right? Graven image, with a sword in his hand facing up to the sky. That's pretty nuts, right? Signifying that they're making a war with God. Why?
Why would they do that?
Right. How stupid could you possibly be? How dumb, right? But that's what it says. Because otherwise we don't understand what's so great about this tower. But they want to make the tower because they want to go on top of the tower. They're going to put this idol with a sword in his hand. That's what the Midrash tells us. The oral tradition explains what they were going to do in the end. To fight God. But I don't understand. You can't fight God by doing that. What were they believing? So let me explain something here. I'm going to see something very, very deep. Get a little Kabbalistic for a moment. Eddie's happy. It says they wanted to make for themselves a name. They want to make themselves a name. Now, let's talk about how the world is set up. There's like this. There is a physical world that has physical laws, right? You go and you want to cut the table. You need a saw, right? You can't cut it with a cucumber. It's not going to work. There are rules. You got to have something sharp to cut this. That's the physical roots. There are spiritual rules also. There is a whole system of a spiritual nature that when something happens in the physical world, it's initiated from the spiritual world first. There's a spiritual force that goes and has a step-down system to the physical world. And that's what the Talmud says, that a blade of grass grows when the spiritual force that's in charge of it goes and hits it to grow. Because it's like a step-down system until you get to the physical world. All right? Now, and that's also why our actions are so important, because when you do an action, you affect the spiritual world and comes down and affects the physical world. That's why if you do good things, people don't understand, only I'm going to solve the world's problems if I go and I get involved in politics and I go and I protest. That's not true. I'm not saying it's not good. But if you act good in your community and you do righteous things, we affect the system. Okay? So there's a spiritual world that parallels the physical world. Okay. Now, as an aside, everything in the world was created with positive and negative. The reason for that is you have free will. So there's also a system that parallels that. That's not a holy system. That's why if you ever heard of people doing black magic, I don't know if people know how to do it today, but when these things were real, because just like you have a spiritual system with spiritual forces, which you call malachim. I don't like saying it in English because English is called angels. And then you get pictures of this and wings on your shoulders. But the word malach, see again, you need in Hebrew already. The word malach is from the Hebrew word melacha. Melacha means action or work. And these are the spiritual forces that are the laws. Like the law of gravity in the physical world, you have spiritual laws. That's the malachim. That's in the side of holiness. Now, there's a side that parallels that. That could be a side of impurity, and that's when you see people doing weird stuff. And I don't know if they do it now, if people, but certainly people used to know how to do it. Maybe people claim to do these weird things today. They go into the cemetery and they would say incantations. What they were trying to do is to try to affect this negative system to get what they would want, but not by being holy and doing what God wanted to, but rather by hooking into impurity. Now, there's another thing. Now, we talk a little about Kabbalah, about mystical pursuits. There's different aspects of it. There's 3 different systems in the Kabbalah. Really, most people are dealing with one today, but there are 2 others. Most of us that learn the things learn more in the theoretical, the ideas. But there's the meditative, which is very important to meditate, and there's ways to meditate Kabbalistically. And there's the other ones called Kabbalah Masit. That's practical Kabbalah. I don't know if you've heard of this, but if anyone's gone to the city called Prague in Czechoslovakia, they have this story about this rabbi named the Maharal, who they say, the Jews and the non-Jews all say that he had built a pseudo-human being called a golem. And they have these stories. Now, is that possible? It's very possible, because we have a book on how to do it. The how to build a pseudo-human. Isn't that so cool? We have a book. It's called Sefer Yetzirah. It's a very ancient book. It's written by Abraham. Abraham wrote this book. And it's a very Kabbalistic work. And in that book, the rabbis for years who understood how to do this, very hard. I mean, I've tried to read it. It's very, very difficult. But the rabbis who understood how to do it used to be able to do certain spiritual things. So did the Maharal create this golem, this sort of figure, look like a person? It's very likely he did. He really might have done it, because we know that they could do it. We have stories in the Talmud that they used these spiritual systems to do it. Now, there's one of the ways that the Kabbalists were able to do certain things was that they were able to go and say the names of the spiritual forces and cause certain things to happen. They were actually able to go and hook into this step-down system. They knew the names of the spiritual forces, the names of God that was connected with these forces. They would say certain names. That you should not do unless you are a very, very holy person. That's why I don't know who does that, because it says that's trying to use the king's scepter. You can't play around with that. Even for a great person, a holy person has got to be really, really, really holy and great to do that, because why are you playing around with these things? So, but that's theoretically possible. I want to tell you an amazing thing. We're talking about early on in the creation. I mean, Adam was alive not long ago. This is like, we're talking about, people when the world just started, and the wisdom of Adam and Eve, they were prophets. That wisdom they passed down was known by many people. And these people, when it says, now you're going to figure out what it means, the deeper meaning says they wanted to make for themselves a name. What they were doing was they knew the names of the spiritual forces, and they were trying to play around with saying names and make the bounty of the world come on them. They were trying to go and say, hey, we don't need to pray to God to help us. We don't want to pray to God to help us. We want to use our science. What it means they wanted to make a name was that they were going to go and bring down this bounty by using their technology, their spiritual things they knew, but they wanted to do it in a way that was going to make them independent from God. And that answers William's question before. Why would they create a tower with an idol with a sword on top of it? They knew the idol wasn't going to fight God, but here's what they figured. Imagine we have a world that we get everything we want. Okay? We know the names of the spiritual forces. We can bring these things down, and we can get. And now a person starts to go and think, well, you know what? Is there a God in the world? Well, you know what? I don't really care. I'm having a good old time. And look, there's an idol over there with a sword fighting God. So we're not subservient to a God wants. We have all the good we have without God. That was the way they're going to fight God, because not that really they were going to fight a war, but the people who grew up in a society where they have all the bounty they want because this thing is coming down, and they're specifically not turning to God, and still they have it. So then they say, okay, so what do we need God for? And I hate to say it, but it's like it's a funny thing. But most people grow when they have challenges. It's like it's unfortunate, it's like that. I mean, we should grow without challenges. That's called learning Torah. That's called prayer. There's ways to do it. But very often we grow the most when something's not going so good. Then you say, okay, well, I need to find a solution. So these people are going to have all the things they want. They're having a grand old time. They look up and they say, wow, how are we getting all this good stuff? Is God with us? Well, I see there's an idol on top of our tower. It's fighting God, so it's not God. That was the plan of the Tower of Babel. And that's what it says in the Midrashim. It says that they said, God, you take the upper worlds, leave us this world, just leave us alone. And I hate to say it because I don't want to be misunderstood. And, as I started this session, to look for scientific discoveries and inventions and technologies is awesome. It is, to me, it's revealing God's world. There is never, from our perspective, there's never an argument between science and Torah. It's either you don't know enough science, or you don't know enough Torah. Can't be an argument because it's the flip side of the coin. The inner spiritual light is what God revealed to us. The external forms are the world that He created. So to find out how the world works and to master these things is wonderful. But some people, and I believe this is with the same Tower of Babel today, people do things trying to create a Tower of Babel. If we could send a person to the moon, and if we could just figure out how to solve this problem here, then God can't get in our way. What? It's a fine point, because if you say it, people don't understand. It's like a nut, because you're like, oh, what are you against? No, I'm all for progress. But the point is that when you uncover the beauty of nature and technology and science, you shouldn't think that's a separate thing from God. That's a very low level understanding of religion. It's very low level. It's like, I have, my science is really worked out, but my religion is like, it's fairy tales. That's not what it is. So these people were literally trying to fight God, make themselves a name, and divorce themselves from the spiritual root of everything from God Himself. That's what they're trying to do. Now watch this. Now it gets even wilder. So that's what it means that God said that if we don't change the system, they have a certain power as people now because they are functioning like a spiritual being in the sense that they're unified. They're one. And that's very powerful. Speaking one language and being one is a very powerful thing. But I want to explain to you the flaw and how God revealed the flaw. This is amazing. There's a great saying in one of the holy books we have. It says, it's an Aramaic saying, it says, Lishna kulmasa deliba. I love that. It sounds like it's just rolling off my tongue. Lishna kulmasa deliba. I love it. So what does that mean? It means Lishna, the tongue, Kulmasa deliba, is the pen of the heart. And if you understand that, when you speak a language, it really affects how you think, how you feel, how you express yourself. It does. Just think about different languages. Think about different people who speak different languages. Let's say you're French. It's very, very flowing, That's a one. But if you're German, your German is it's boxes, Because the language is like that. Literally every language is like, it becomes the pen of your heart. You think in those terms. I always think, and it's funny, because I think about, I have no proof of this, but, English is a neuter language. It's not, in romantic language, in the Hebrew language, there's male and female. In English, you have an it. What's an it? And I believe, this is my own theory, but I kind of think that was, sometimes British people, and no offense to British people out there, I love British people, but sometimes they can be a little bit British, Monty Python has a whole shtick about themselves, so but yes, I can say that. I'm not British, but so it can be a little bit, very much like, oh, it's very uncouth, because it's like it's not warm and like male female. It's like very it's more standoffish, and I kind of think that's kind of like the American Revolution in a certain sense. It's like we speak English, but like. We don't speak that refined, we're kind of like, let it flow. Like, so we took English and we sort of, the British think we're not speaking English because like it sounds just so like, homey. But that was the point. The point was to make it a little bit less formal.
They're actually the ones that created the accent they have today.
Oh, yeah?
Theirs is artificial. They actually created a system because they wanted to have a way of distinguishing themselves from the working class. So when the working class reached a certain status, they created something called... I believe it was received pronunciation is what they called it, but basically they had to teach people how to speak in a certain way so that they didn't. I recognize your accent. You must be one of these people.
Wow, wow, it's cool. All right, and that's kind of what I'm saying though, because I think the English is a new language, and it affects the way you see things. The Romantic language or Hebrew is everything's male, female. So Lishnikos Liba, the tongue is the pen of the heart, and when you express something, then what happens is that that becomes the way you think, the way you express yourself. That's why the holy language is like white light. And we're going to see they divide up into 70 nations. And it's always like that. We've talked about many times. There are 7 days of the week. There are 7 notes in the scale. There are 7 colors in the rainbow. And that's why the 70, in Kabbalistic terms, everything is multiplied times 10. 10 is the whole number. So there's 70 nations. It's literally white light, which is the holy language that gets run through a prism, and it turns into the spectrum of the rainbow. And that's why you can learn Torah in English. But what happens is that you're getting one flavor. When you read it in the source, it contains the whole thing. It's the white light that has the whole Roy G. Biff thing in there, Right? I went to school too. I know these things. My education was good. So in Brooklyn, we learn these things, So okay, so what happens is that originally they have this power of the holy language and they're united. But I want to tell you something about unity and fake unity, because you got to know this is a political commentary for the world today. There are people that unite, and it's completely fake, right? Why I could unite with you because we could be trying to knock off a guy that we both hate, but we're not really united. What's the proof? The proof is once we get control, then we fight who's going to be the king. And that's every dictatorship works like that. You unite against your enemy, but you're not really one. Your hearts are not really connected. They're not. And that's the deeper meaning God mixed up their language. This is a deep, beautiful idea. He brought out their real intent. He brought their real hearts. Their hearts were not one. Their hearts were not one. Their hearts were, yes, we're united on the outside. We speak one language, but inside, we're only united because we want to get God out of the picture. But once we do, I want to be the king, and you want to be the king. And we're doing this unity on the outside, but not for the deeper, holier reasons. When people have real unity, they make place for each other. They really see themselves as one group and one team, and there isn't this fakeness of I want to be the one in charge. Their unity was a false unity, and the way God revealed it was by bringing out their real hearts in their language. They start, and I don't know how it happened. If it happened in 1 second, I don't know exactly, but in other words, when you start to see the world in a certain way, that's your language. That's your expression. And they start expressing themselves differently, to the Talmud says they don't understand each other anymore. What are you saying? Like they started developing their own separate way of, of communicating, which was their way to see the world, which was not united with the other person. That was their heart. Their hearts became revealed. And that's why so God mixed up their languages. It means that he really brought out the fact that they were not united. And that's an amazing, amazing thing. And that's why if you take the Hebrew word, heart, it's levav. Lev, or it's called levav in the Shema because it's all of your heart. That's the word levav. That's your heart. If you take the word levav and you spell it backwards, can you guess what word it's going to be? Bavel, Babylon. Because what happened was their heart was not really united. It seemed united. And God said, yes, if their hearts are united and they're in this thing, then they can accomplish a lot in the world. But that's not really where they're at. And the way it's going to be demonstrated is by bringing out their true heart. It's Bavel. It's mixed up. It's confused. It's different. It's not. And that's why as soon as they can't speak the language, that's why the city falls apart. You know why it falls apart? Because we don't have any unity to do this thing anymore. You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. And this becomes the beginning of the split of nations. This is where people, and it's unfortunate because we want to move to a time where there is a unity amongst all nations. That's what we're going towards. This is a breaking point. The Bavel is when the people are all coming and they have potential to hook into one source, to God, and they speak the holy language, and they have it all. It's like they're there, but they don't want that. They each want to be their own king. And so their unity is fake, and it spreads out into 70 nations, which becomes the root of all the nations of the world. Right? 70 nations become, that's why 70 languages, 70 roots, and 70 nations. So the hope is to reunite these forces and these people who speak, and even in a positive thing today. It's like, it's a known fact that if you are American, you are only able to speak one language. It's a scientifically proven fact, right? Why is that? Why do you go into Europe and everyone speaks 12 languages and in English in America we can't? Because it's because we don't have so much contact in Europe. You go in every place, you speak another language. But it's important to be able to hear someone else's head, hear where they're coming from, to try to understand their world. That's represented by their language. So Bavel was the beginning of the break. Once they couldn't understand each other, they just split. They said, no, we're not hanging out together, we're not doing it together, we're not building together. I don't understand you, you don't understand me. And you have to get back to the root. And the only way people actually ever could combine when they have different places, there's only one way. It's very simple. You know what it is? You gotta go to the root. If you go to the root, then you're connected. If your branch is in a tree, your separate branches, you only see yourself as connected when you see that the trunk is connected, you're coming from one place. So that is the lesson of the Tower of Babel. It wasn't to fight the oneness of Hashem, it would have been to unite. And they didn't, and their hearts were revealed. Okay, we're going to close Facebook now. We're going to take some questions, and that will encourage you to come to the class from wherever you are next time.